The world was on the brink of extinction. A zombie virus had unleashed its horror, slowly turning humans into mindless, flesh-craving monsters. In this nightmare, Andy, a determined man, sailed through the infected world on a small boat, desperately trying to protect his family. The only safe place left was the water, where the zombies dared not tread. His wife, Eva, and their 1-year-old daughter were his only companions, huddled close in the small vessel as it slowly drifted down the river. One afternoon, as Andy navigated the river's gentle currents, he spotted a family standing on the riverbank. Hope sparked within him, and he waved his hand, signaling his intention to approach. But the man on the bank, eyes wide with fear, raised a gun and aimed it directly at Andy. The message was clear: stay away. Andy understood the terror that gripped the man's heart, and without a word, he quietly continued on his way. But Andy's problems were mounting. The food and water supplies on the boat were nearly depleted, forcing him to consider the terrifying prospect of leaving the safety of the river. The very next day, as if by a twist of fate, Andy came across a broken boat. Cautiously, he approached, finding just enough provisions to last a few more months. But as he gathered the supplies, a noise startled him from behind. Without hesitation, he grabbed what he could and fled back to his boat. Eva, relieved by the newfound supplies, was not content. Driven by greed, she secretly returned to the broken boat in the dead of night to gather the remaining items. But as she was about to leave, a zombie emerged from the shadows, grabbing her and pulling her into its clutches. When Andy awoke the next morning, he found Eva injured and panicked. She had been bitten. Eva begged Andy to leave her behind, knowing the infection would soon consume her. But Andy refused to let go. He knew the virus took 48 hours to fully spread, and he was determined to find a doctor before time ran out. Gathering his wife and daughter, they set out on a desperate journey, hoping against hope to find someone who could save her. As they traveled, they came across abandoned vehicles, one of which was still functional. They continued, but as the hours passed, Eva's condition worsened. She started having seizures, urging Andy to leave her behind, but he pressed on. Just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, they were involved in a horrific car accident. A wooden stick pierced through Eva's body, and Andy, injured and disoriented, lost consciousness. When he awoke, Eva had fully transformed into a zombie. In her final moments of lucidity, she had written a note, pleading for Andy to save their daughter. But before Andy could react, Eva bit his hand, infecting him too. Struggling with the realization that his own time was now limited, Andy made the heart-wrenching decision to kill his wife, setting a timer on his watch for the 48 hours he had left. Determined to protect his daughter, Andy pressed forward, carrying her on his back. Along the way, he encountered a man, armed and ready to shoot. But before the situation could escalate, a young girl named Dumi intervened. She revealed that the man was her father, also infected, but controlled through a unique method she had devised. She cut her palm, using the scent of her blood to guide her father away from danger, and then helped Andy move forward. Falling when Andy stumbled upon a small, dimly lit school. A lone teacher had taken refuge there, offering them shelter for the night. She noticed Andy's infected hand and asked how much time he had left. With 44 hours remaining, she allowed them to stay. Andy considered leaving his daughter with the teacher, but she revealed she was dying of cancer and wouldn't be able to care for her for long. In the dead of night, the teacher suddenly began shouting for Dumi. Outside, the locals were burning zombies near the school, and in the chaos, Dumi had been separated from her mother. Andy remembered seeing Dumi earlier, but knew he had to focus on his own dwindling time. At dawn, Andy hurriedly left the school, driven by the ticking clock. Before leaving, the teacher handed him a photograph of a tribal family, telling him they were known to help survivors. With no other options, Andy set out to find them. As he journeyed, he found a car abandoned on the road. As he was about to get inside, he heard a man's voice. The man, Carter, was trapped under a cylinder with zombies approaching fast. Andy, using the car, managed to save him just in time. Carter took Andy to his home, where he lived with his wife, Lauren. They decided to stay the night, but when Lauren noticed the foam on Andy's clothes, she realized he was infected. However, she kept this from Carter. Later that night, Andy decided to leave his daughter with them and go out to end his life before the virus could fully take over. But Lauren followed him, revealing a dark truth. Carter was a monster who had killed her husband and made her his slave. If Andy wanted her to adopt his daughter, he had to help her escape. As they planned their escape, Carter caught them, imprisoning Andy in an iron cage alongside Dumi, who was terrified. But Andy, ever resourceful, found a way out. He used a piece of meat to lure zombies to the cage, causing chaos that allowed them to escape. They returned to rescue Lauren and the baby, but Carter woke up. In the ensuing confrontation, Carter shot at Andy, but Lauren took the bullet, sacrificing herself to save them. The next morning, with only 9 hours left, Andy decided to return to the riverbank where he had seen a family earlier. But as they traveled, they encountered Dummy's father, now dead. Overcome with grief, Dummy wept beside his body, but Andy couldn't stay. Time was running out. Suddenly, Andy began to experience seizures, the virus tightening its grip on him. When he awoke, his daughter was gone. Dummy had taken her, desperate to save the child. Together, they reached the family on the riverbank, only to find that the father had also been bitten. Despairing, he offered Andy 2 bullets to end both his and his daughter's lives. Tempted by the offer, Andy nearly gave in but ultimately refused. As he prepared to leave, Dummy noticed smoke rising in the distance. She recognized it as a signal from her tribe, who were burning zombies. The two of them started in that direction, but their journey was interrupted by Carter, who was hunting zombies in a nearby tunnel. Carter, filled with rage, attacked Andy, leading to a brutal fight in which Andy was shot. Carter then threw Dummy onto the railway tracks, injuring her. As Carter prepared to kill Andy's daughter, he hesitated, unable to go through with it. His conscience, stirred by the innocence of the child, made him return her to Andy. Weak and barely able to stand, Andy took his daughter and Dummy, moving forward with whatever strength he had left. But as they walked, Andy's time finally ran out. He felt his senses slipping away as the virus consumed him. Knowing he had to protect his daughter, Andy used his last moments of clarity to tie a piece of flesh to a stick, instructing Dummy to use it to guide him, just as she had done with her father. With his hands tied and a piece of plastic in his mouth to prevent him from harming anyone, Andy hoisted his daughter and Dummy onto his back. He began to walk, even as the infection took full control of his body. He had become a complete zombie, driven only by the faint memory of his love for his daughter. On the other side of the smoke, Dummy's tribe was finishing off the remaining zombies when they saw a figure emerging. It was Andy, carrying his daughter to safety. Dummy's mother, overjoyed to see her daughter alive, ran to them. The men of the tribe, recognizing Andy's sacrifice, ended his suffering with a swift, merciful act. In the end, Dummy's mother adopted Andy's daughter, ensuring she would grow up safe and loved. The world had changed forever, but in the midst of despair, the bond of humanity, hope, and sacrifice had prevailed.